Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the PillowTalk Podcast. Today you are again joined by our loving hosts Jay Malhotra and Varun Kalra. And also our friend has joined us from Toronto and it's 6 a.m. in
Bro, it's
Toronto right now,
Toronto.
guys.
It's Toronto.
Toronto. It's 6 a.m. there and Raj is someone who does not wake up before 4 p.m. every single day. So we are very thankful for your gracious presence here, Raj. Would you be a sweetie and say hi to our 20,000 listeners?
First of all, it's not Toronto, it's not Toronto, it's Toronto. And
Toronto.
I do not.
You just have to gargle inside your mouth and you'll be able to pronounce it. It's Toronto.
Pretty much. So, for those who don't know, my name is Raj, and I'm the third and only friend of Manan and Jay. And the reason I was not able to do the podcast before was because I actually have things to do in my life. I go to school and I work part time. That's why I've been pretty busy. And the reason I'm still in school is because I want to graduate in 4 years, and that is something that Jay doesn't know about because he's probably not going to graduate, or he's probably going to take 6 to 7 years.
How many credits do you have left for
So,
your last step?
irrespective of that, I will still
Yeah.
complete it in 4 years. That is the big point.
I think the real reason why Raj could not be a part of this podcast was because he was partying in his frat. Raj is a party boy for all those who don't know him, and he likes to involve himself in a lot of alcohol.
That is not true, and the alcohol part definitely, and all the other stuff. I don't want to comment on it. So let's move on.
For all of you who think that the frat is what led Raj into this lifestyle, you should know that Raj is the person who introduced Manan and I to alcohol. It is
That
because
is
of him
definitely
that we
not
are
true.
struggling right now in this lockdown without enough booze to sustain ourselves. But we'll get
And I think I
we'll
think
get
every
through it
I think
somehow.
everything we know about frats and all these, what should I call them, Raj? Boy clubs.
Bad habits, Manan. That is what you should call them.
So,
Right
so,
word.
so everything we know about the frat is through Raj, and it's actually very correctly depicted in all the movies as well. So, Raj, do you have any comments on that?
Not really. I don't want to comment
Do
on
you
that.
do you accept
So
these allegations?
I may or may not.
Excellent.
I do not accept any of these charges. So let's move on.
Anyway, so the reason that we have Raj on with us today is because a few days back, again at 6 a.m. in Toronto, Raj told us that he was extremely frustrated because of this one assignment that he was struggling to finish at 6 a.m. in the morning. So naturally, the first thought that came to my mind also was that, I mean, you're being stupid if you didn't work for it earlier. But that wasn't the issue, and there were, there was a major theme at play there. So to discuss just the frustration with the ecosystem that we've been put in for as long as we can remember, we decided that if someone like Raj or someone like us, if we are going through all of this, then there must be a lot of other people who are also going through the same thing. And it always helps to know that you're not in it alone, and there are other people going through the same shit as you. So, which is why today we decided to talk about how the paradox of education and how the culture of education is not exactly benefiting us in the way that we think it is.
And I think Raj has a very strong opinion about it, which dates back to our class 12th. I think Raj will be a better narrator for that story. So go ahead, Raj.
Okay, so definitely, I think the best background for this whole story has to be my board 12 class, class 12 board account, no accounts board fiasco. And for those of you who don't know, if you don't do well in your boards, your life is fucked up. Your life is finished, and that's how the rules have been made, and that's how it's going to be for the next 40 years at least.
That's how
Here's
we've
what
been
happened.
told. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's been like that for the last 40 years. It's
And
probably going to
yeah,
be like
and
that
it's
for the
been
next.
engraved in our minds since a very, very young age that if you don't perform well on your boards, then you've basically screwed up.
Bro, मतलब
Basically. So
आफ्टर ऑल सिर्फ बोर्ड्स ही मैटर करते हैं उसके बाद तो मजे है ना
exactly,
ऐसे
bro. Qualification
बोर्ड ये
bro.
करा दो करो
So here's what happened. This is around 1 week before the accounts board, and I'm in my tuition, balling out and easily getting 95 out of 100 in all the mock tests and finishing all my exams around 30 minutes before time, and I'm pretty confident about myself this time. I go to the exam center. I'm pretty calm because I usually don't get that stressed for exams. I sit down. I start my paper from the back, which is what all the tutors have taught us, that you always do the big question first. I start with the 12 marker. I'm doing the 12 marker, and I if 15 minutes into it, I realize I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, this whole question is messed up, and I'm not going to be able to finish this question. It's been 25 minutes. I wasted my time on this question. I start attempting the second part, like the second option of the same question. Luckily, it took me like 20 minutes, but I did the question. But at this point, it's been one third of the paper is finished, and I've only done one question. So I try to hustle it out and pace it out, and I'm like, I'm going to finish this exam. I'm going to finish this exam. But sadly for me, half an hour is left, and I'm only halfway through the exam. By the time the exam is finished, I've only completed around 70% of the exam, and I'm on the verge of crying. I'm pretty much gutted, and I look at Manan, and he's looking at me, and he knows that I'm about to cry.
And I,
And
and I remember exactly, like, as soon as the exam ended, I looked at Raj and I was expecting a very happy smile because my paper was like extremely, like, it went very smoothly. So I looked at Raj expecting a similar facial expression, and I looked at him and I asked him, "Ki, bro, how was it?" And he gave me the worst look ever, like as if I had killed a dog or something. He gave me that look and he just rushed out of the exam hall, and we didn't see any more of Raj that day.
so that's
Just
not
one
even the
thing that
worst
I
of
need to
yeah.
add here is that, Manan, why do you know what look a person gives to the other person when they've killed a dog?
So I'm assuming.
Bro, that was probably
That is
worse than
what
that, bro.
you.
It
Yeah, I
was a
think
worse look, trust
it
me.
was a worse look, bro. Like, it was a mixture between did you kill a dog and I've pooed my pants.
Yeah, it was. Okay, so that happened, but that was not the worst of it. So what these guys don't know is that once the exam finished, and so you have to stay in class for another 20 minutes for some weird reason. But I asked the teacher if I can go to the washroom, and I went out, took my bag, and left. I was the first out of 500 people to leave the building, and the norm was that your parents are supposed to wait outside the building to greet the child and ask them how the exam went. Luckily or not luckily for me, my parents don't bother to come to this situation. So
Probably
I
because
go
they
out.
love your brother more.
That is definitely not true. They don't even know I'm so sorry. So here's what happens. I go out. I see this one parent stops me, who's a parent of one of my friend, and she sees that I'm pretty gutted, and I'm on the verge. I'm probably crying at this point. I don't even remember. And she asked me, "Beta, how did my son do?" I'm like, "Oh, nice one, auntie." I'm like, "Fuck you." First of all. I don't give a fuck how your son did, and I'm not going to listen to your question right now, and I just leave. I don't even answer. I just leave. And fast forward 2 days after this, I haven't seen anyone. I haven't picked up any calls. I've probably just told my mom that my exam went shit, and I'm going to talk to you after 2 days. And I call Manan and I explain him the whole situation. And this by this time, Manan already assumed what had happened, and he tries to console me, tell me that next exam is going to be better. This one doesn't even matter. You take best of four. This is this and all that bullshit.
And I remember telling Raj the same day, ki, bro, there was a friend of my sister who attempted like 60% of his business studies paper, and he actually got a 95% on his exam, and Raj was like, no, bro, that's bullshit. Come on, that doesn't happen. Cut to our result day.
Our result day. So here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for doing decently well in math because I would always struggle with that. And I'm hoping for at least a 75 in accounts out of with grace that I can just take best out of four and drop accounts. So I open my result and I see math and I get 90 out of 100, which is for those of you who don't understand that 90 out of 100 means the world to me. Like, I've never done this good in a math exam. I'm extremely happy. Then I look at my accounts exam. I get a 92 out of 100. I'm like, what the fuck? How does that happen? How do I leave 30 marks and I get a 92? That's beyond my imagination.
And one more thing that we have to, take into consideration here is that if you, if you look at yourself as an individual who, did badly but somehow ended up scoring well, then there must be a lot of people who did very well but ended up scoring badly. So, I mean, how do, you get to a situation of parity where there is where no one is being disadvantaged too much or no one is being advantaged too much.
So when my result came, my initial reaction was obviously super. I was super happy that wow, I got a 92. I'm probably gonna get a
Mhm.
good college now. Probably not in DU because DU is stupid, and you need a 98%
Okay.
to get in. But whatever. Not stupid in the sense of curriculum. Probably stupid in the sense of
Yeah,
curriculum
yeah,
too.
bro.
But you
Stupid
know
in the
what?
sense of curriculum as well.
You know what I'm saying.
I
So
think
my
everyone agrees.
but here's the issue that I can't tell you how to make a parity in this situation because there is no way around it. Like I alone cannot change. I cannot do anything. Like for
Of course.
something good to happen, the whole system needs to change. And
Yeah,
for
bro, we
that,
need like a complete revamp of the system because I think just to add on to that, to get parity, first of all, we have to completely remove state boards and central exam and stuff like that, and we need one question paper on one day for every student throughout India.
that's the thing
Because
which is never going to happen because then schools will not, bro, it's a business. That's what I've realized. Like school need, like all these schools, they need to have like, okay, our school did this much, so that's why we
hmm,
deserve the best students, so we
right,
can charge them the best fees. And it's not an education system anymore, it's a business now. And
yeah.
it's it's extremely tough to change that.
I think a lot of it depends on. See, the thing is, there are probably 20, 30,000, probably even more teachers who are correcting our papers. Like, once we submitted it, we don't know who's checking our papers. And throughout India, there are so many people appearing for boards each year. There are so many different people who are checking the paper. And even though there's an answer key, there's so much subjectivity to each person's paper that you can't really bring parity into this situation.
Yeah, so like the whole system needs to be revamped. I don't know how it should happen, but it really needs to happen.
And like you
And
mentioned that this is a business. So schools are
definitely.
doing the absolutely the weirdest shit that they can to maximize their profits, if you want to put it that way. In our school, you guys remember this happened that we were told that so we were in
I
once
know
we
what you're
went,
gonna
I
say.
think ninth or tenth grade, I think we all of us where we started 10th grade and suddenly our parents get a notification that, oh, we are making an ability section in our school, and all of us thinking, what the fuck is an ability section and how do you decide who goes there? And then our school handpicked people from each section and they pushed them into one section, and the others we were just told to continue doing what we were doing because we can't get you anything and we aren't as important as the other guys. I think that sucks.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in a school, and it was so funny, bro. Like they came to class, like the HOD or whatever, whoever is in charge, and they're like, "It's class के ये छह बच्चे हैं, and they need to go to the ability section
Yeah,
because
they
they
picked
are the
up they picked up
smartest."
like all everyone who got a 10 CGP and they were like, okay, let's go to another class right now.
Exactly. I was like, the whole system was stupid. I like a lot of people ended up doing it, but a lot of people, those who did not choose to do it, I like
Represent.
personally, I've seen same bro. I've seen that. Jay, do you want to say something?
No, Jen never got the chance to get into the ability section.
You didn't get
Exactly.
a 10 CGPA either, Raj.
To
Manan
be
did.
honest, bro, they asked me to go in the section. I
Yeah,
don't know
but
why,
the
but they asked
point
me.
is a 10 CGPA.
I don't think that's how they picked, bro. Then they just picked the smartest students. That's what I
All
feel.
right. Yeah,
But anyway, like whatever the
Good cover up,
basis
Raj.
was,
Good cover up.
yeah.
it was just a stupid system, and I don't think there is any way to motivate any child. And that is just school showing us that they don't care about the holistic approach. They just care about the good grades and getting the reputation.
Yeah, so like this is the point that you mentioned that there needs to be one test that everyone takes.
Hmm.
So that is similar to the structure of the SAT that takes place in US, right? Everyone
Yeah,
takes the same
and
test.
their A levels
But
and all across
yeah,
UK as
so
well.
do
Yeah.
you think that is a better way of judging, a student's aptitude than what our system is? And if so, how do you think their system evaluates learning outside of the academic curriculum?
Uh, According to me, I think I'll just say that see, like you can criticize examination as much as you can, and you can find 100 faults in the SAT as well. But the thing is, you have to have one criteria which will measure the ability of a student, which is actually the paradox of education. Like, even though there's just one exam and you grind throughout that year, throughout the whole year for that one SAT exam, and if you don't score well, you just don't score well, you have to take it another time. Like, there's so much, it's so problematic at every level, because you don't know whether educate like whether an exam could be the right, what do we call, the right judgment criteria for a student. But again, that's what it boils down to. And I think that's what translates into college as well. I think Raj will give us a better example of how colleges work outside India, and how.
So personally, I don't think the SAT is a very good. Like, it's definitely a way to evaluate the whole all the criterias, but again, it has the same issues that the board system has, that you're focusing too much on three things like math and, like, okay, it does have a sort of a problem solving aspect to it, but that also does not reflect all the qualities of a student. That's what I believe, at least. And
Yeah, I
I,
think I
I
agree with that.
yeah, because so I feel that the schools need to adopt a different system at a very basic level. That means that starting from, I don't know, grade 1 or grade 2, they need to start adding a lot more different kind of studying or curriculum techniques that is not revolving around academics, at least. Right? This could mean anything. This could mean like speaking abilities, confidence building abilities, mental health, and whatever you want to talk about, whatever makes a student more comfortable and more confident in whatever he wants to represent himself as. And that is something that schools have not been doing, definitely not in India. I don't know about this high school structure in Canada or America or whatever, because I've not done that, but I'm pretty sure, because most of the students I've seen over here, they're pretty much the same as the rest of the world.
And
So
we've
they're
been
they're
we've
not
been
doing
told
anything
that.
special.
Yeah, and we've been told, like, once you're done with your boards and you can go to college, then you can choose subjects that you want. You can take the subjects that you feel more inclined towards and stuff like that. But that's where Raj's real frustration comes into play.
So yeah, exactly. Here's what happened. I changed my whole country to get into a system which will have a more open approach. That's what I expected, and at some level, I did get that, because there was a lot more flexibility in the kind of subjects I can take, the way the system is gonna run. But I'm like now entering my fourth year, and I've realized that it all revolves around the same bullshit. My assignment that I was frustrated about, I was literally copying answers from Google or some other thing. And the only reason I was up till 6 a.m. was because it was taking time for me to copy this from that place. And that's not because like I didn't know the answer. That's just because that's easier. Because this is not something like I need to have an aptitude to know. This is just something that I have to copy from somewhere, and I just have to put it on paper and submit it. And that's how most of the assignments are based in this country as well. So overall, all the systems are pretty much fucked, and I don't see a way around it right now.
So,
Like all the yeah,
what,
go
like,
on.
I agree that there are a lot of, there are most of the subjects do require you to just, copy paste the information. But so there were 2 points, like Manan mentioned, the avenue for making choices. So that is something that I feel I have been given a very comfortable, space to make choices in terms of what I want to study in my college. And if I'm excluding a few courses, then most of my courses do evaluate qualitative thinking, which doesn't involve, So I'll tell you this one story about my professor. So this is a professor who's taking a course in international relations and governance. And the thing is that, so another very important thing is that he asked for all handwritten assignments. So it sucks because no one's in the habit of writing anymore. And we had to
Mhm.
submit this 1500 to 2000 word essay handwritten.
Oh.
So instead of evaluating us on our grammar or the language that we've chosen, he just wanted us. He When he was evaluating it, he highlighted the ideas that he saw in our essay, and he marked us on the basis of that. This was just our first assignment. As we moved on, then grammar had certain marks, language had certain marks. But this is something that I felt actually made sense to a student who was,
But
trying to figure out whether or not they know what they are being taught. So what I'm trying to
but
ask you is that, do you think that this culture of, being allotted marks on the basis of some assignment is completely irrelevant and redundant?
like before I answer that, your situation, was that a one-off or is that something that you've
Yeah,
seen
exactly.
ha-
That was
So
my
happen
this
question.
to a lot of
has
friends?
this has happened a lot of times in particular courses. But like I'm saying, there are other courses that, again, so all courses are, structured on the discretion of the instructor. So most of my courses, when it comes to management and other subjects, they are very straightforward in terms of copying information from one place to the other. But there are
Exactly.
courses, like I mentioned this one, where they do evaluate us on our qualitative thinking and the ideas that we are proposing.
So here's what I think. Okay, so here's what I think, that a lot of the courses need to have a academic aspect to it, in the sense that they need to be evaluated based on how you're doing in the exam, like math, statistics, or financial courses. But what I would personally want to see is that you reduce that weightage to, I don't know, less than 25% of a particular semester or something. Because my exams are structured towards the, like my finance exams are basically 70% exams, 10% participation, 20% assignments, which are also basically exams. So if they are able to structure something in a way that it incorporates a lot of, I would say, presentations which shows all the other capabilities of a student, I feel that is a much better way to evaluate a student. And if that can be given around 60% weightage, then that would definitely change a lot of things. That's what I feel, at least.
But like if you think about it, education. Okay, I'm actually very surprised about the education choices, like the whole thing that Jay said about him having these specific instructors, having these specific professors who actually rate you on what you like, on your ideas and not your language or grammar, which is good. But then again, we have to talk about how we are put into a system of education where if you don't do a specific course, like great, you have the choice to pursue a specific course, but if you don't do xyz course, then you won't be able to get into finance. Like, why is that such a strong necessity to have in your curriculum? Just if you want to get into finance, like if you want to get into core finance, then you have to do economics for let's say 4 semesters, or you have to do xyz number of credits of economics, or this or that. I mean, I don't understand that.
I mean, this, this is like kind of arbitrary in the sense that a lot of finance specialist courses would require certain prerequisites that you would need. And
But
but again,
again,
this
you
comes
have
down to the whole
everything on the
situation, who
internet.
decides those prerequisites, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And you have internet at your discretion. You have everything available on the internet. If you see, the thing is, even if you learn something from uni or at school, there's a very small chance that you'll remember it forever, right? So
oh,
at the end of the
definitely.
day, if you're pursuing something in finance and you need that sort of economics education again, 99% times you'll go on the internet and read up about it again and actually study it again just to implement it, right? So if that's
Like,
inevitably happening, why do you have to pursue certain courses just to be in a certain degree, certain line of work?
I totally agree with that, because so I'm currently doing an internship, and this internship required me to know a bit about financial modeling and all the other finance related stuff, and they did not teach me that in, like, by the time I was in my second year, that's when I got my internship. And I was able to learn all this in like a quick 2 month online research kind of thing, that I just spent 2 months and I was able to learn all of this. And so that's where I completely agree with you, that all this can be learned on the internet. And that's why, that's again going back to my earlier point, the school system needs to be changed, and everything around it has to change. Like, they need to evaluate the whole learning criteria, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but they definitely have to do it. That's what I
So
believe.
what would be one of your like final thoughts on someone who's struggling at a similar situation like yours?
Okay, my final thought. I would like to apologize to Jay for making fun of him earlier, but that was in that was all in good jokes. But I personally feel if you're gonna take 3 years to graduate, kudos to you. That is amazing. Where you're probably smart or something. I don't know. Doesn't matter. You're probably not. But if you're gonna take 5 years or 6 years, it really doesn't matter. Like if you're gonna take 6 years and you're master in whatever you're trying to learn, then that is definitely worth it. You're gonna do 200 times better than what a regular 4-year graduate is going to do. So my final thoughts would be that just take your time, do what you want to do. Don't worry about societal pressure, family pressure, whatever pressure that you have to graduate in 4 years. It doesn't really matter. Just do good. Like just take your time, be happy, be comfortable in what you're doing, and try to increase all your other skills and not just academic skills, your confidence building skills, everything else. Just do good. Like you'll be fine. Just take 6 years, seven. It doesn't matter. You'll
Do
be
you
fine.
think there should be more qualitative courses in colleges as well? Like qualitative in terms of like you said confidence building and stuff like that.
Like not in the mainstream courses. Like not in like I'm a finance economics specialist, so we definitely don't have that. But there
So
are
like
some.
should they have it?
Oh, definitely. Like that is like they should definitely start that in high school, and by the time you like the actual scenario would be ideal scenario would be that you start that in high school. By the time you reach college, you wouldn't need that. But sadly, that is not happening. So I would say that if no, so
That we
here's the
have to
thing.
make and present.
When that's what I used to think that my college had a lot of presentations, so that is good. But the thing is that these presentations are just happening. Like they're evaluating your presentation. They're not teaching you how to do a presentation, and that is what should have been taught to you in school. And if someone taught me that in high school, like way earlier, starting from grade 2 and reaching grade 12, I knew I was super confident in giving presentation. I could implement that in college, and I it would be a great time for me then. But that is not happening, and I really hope that it happens in the future.
What are your final thoughts on this, Jay?
Yeah, so I feel that at the end of the day, there is, if you talk about it rationally, then there's no escape from it, right? You from school, you
Yeah.
go to college, from college, you go
It's a
into the
trap.
workforce. Yeah, so you are just perpetually caught up in this. And for me, I think the most important part and the most important thing that helps you cope with this is that you should take your own time and not be flustered by, what the other person is doing or how they're doing it. As long as you're comfortable with your own self, as long as you're comfortable and happy with what you're doing, like Raj said, you're going to be extremely successful. And one thing that people often mistake is that, they think that being successful is okay. But we need to remember that if you're successful, you also need to be happy. And to be happy, you need to be at peace with your own self, which only comes when you've taken enough time to think about what you're doing.
Yeah, and just to
Jay,
provide
I
like
think that was perfect.
an opposing view on this, I think everything that Rajan just said is great to hear. But again, as soon as you step out in the real world, which is not as ideal as we wish it were, but it's not. But as soon as we step out in the real world, it's again you being thrown into the education, because I know the next generation that comes up, our kids or something like that, they will again go down a similar road where we will have to actually teach them the importance of prioritizing happiness over, let's say, success for that matter, in very like arbitrary sense.
So the last thing I would say to that is that schools prepared us for getting a job, but they should have prepared us for living life. And that's
Oh,
where
Oh
your
my
problem would have
God,
oh
been.
my god,
Rajveer.
what a
Oh,
line.
wow. What a line.
And for
I think
those
that's a
of you who are
perfect note to end
wondering,
on.
I just want to say all the bird noises is because it's 6:30 a.m. in Toronto. So it's time for me to go to sleep.
And also,
Alright.
all of you should know that we are very grateful, we are very thankful for all the education that we've received.
Yeah,
We are aware of the
definitely.
privilege that we enjoy, and the only reason that we've come out to talk about all of this stuff is because it's been bothering us, and we are sure that it must have been bothering a lot of other people too. Please don't mistake us for being, ungrateful or for not recognizing the fact that, we enjoyed great quality education at the absolute right times.
Definitely. I think that's a perfect
Yes.
note to end on. Thank you so much, Rajveer. We hope you join us for more episodes. If you do like Rajveer on this podcast, please message us on our Instagram at the PillowTalk _podcast. and you can message us individually as well. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. We're very grateful to the 20,000 people who are listening to our podcast. Thank you, and see you again very soon.